you guys were not sure, we're going to be going live, generally speaking, around this time once a week to discuss moving abroad stuff.
Mhm.
So we're going to be making posts about this. We were literally
Yes.
just discussing this. We will be making posts to give people heads ups about like, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is the time. Feel free to like reserve, make sure you got your spot in here, come with your questions. But
Mhm.
this is a thing that is now a pattern, just so that way we all know.
Yes. So around this time, and then we were just saying for Black Babes Abroad, if you're subscribed to us on Substack, which you definitely should, we'll also be opening up a subscriber chat too, where we can also kind of run through some of this stuff. So we were just saying, maybe asking people, hey, what would the best time for you be? What times would you be able to attend live and interact? So maybe we'll have some special, like once a month or so, streams that are a different time, but we're working with different time zones. We're working with y'all with different time zones. So we're figuring it out. But we're definitely open to suggestions and maybe doing some special streams at some other times that would be easier for more people to join.
Yes. Definitely let us know if you are night owls. Let us know where you are, like state, or like if you're by a major city, and then let us know if you are a night owl, early bird or night owl. That can help us to figure out.
Put it in the chat. Also, just to know.
Yeah,
Actually, now I'm just interested.
Generally, but yeah, just so that way, because we know that this is quite early for a lot of people, but also it is quite late for other people like myself. But just putting it out there, let us know. Let us know.
And that's how the world works.
Yes. So if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong.
And I will correct you.
Oh, fantastic.
Hey, hi, Tracy.
Tracy. Tracy's a real one. Tracy's a real one, and Tracy is 100% dedicated to like getting herself
My sleep
out.
schedule is ruined. No, Cleo.
I'm
Not
so
Cleo.
sorry.
Oh,
But this
I'm
is what we're talking
sorry.
about. Like, let us know where you're based, like generally where
Yeah.
you're based, and if you are an early bird or a night owl. Like, we want to be as accommodating as possible.
As possible. Yeah. I'm a night owl in South Carolina.
Okay. EST.
Cute. Okay.
Yes.
So it's South Carolina's EST. It's not the little Midwest time zone, is it?
No. No.
Okay. They get sneaky. I know like Texas, they know like Austin's in that sneaky little time where they're like, wow, 7 hours, I think, away from me. Nigeria night owl. Okay. Here we go.
Nigeria night owl. Okay.
We're doing a
All right.
circulation. Yeah. So Shayna, would you like to
We
present
need to be
yourself?
writing this down.
Yeah. Night owl
I
in
have no
Delaware.
pen by me.
Okay, Cleo. We're okay. Night owl
Okay.
in Chicago. All
Okay.
right. So we're working with more East Coast. So we can
Mhm.
figure something out for now. We can figure something out.
Yes.
Thank you, Tracy. I never know. I never know how they draw that map of time zones, which is still so crazy to me. But
So, like, for Tracy, I will say, like, I knew that she was EST just because she's part of my Patreon group where,
oh,
like, once a
amazing.
month we hop on a call and just chat. So, like, I've
Oh,
scheduled it to, and we've had the hi Tracy.
Tracy.
But yeah, okay. So once again, to everybody that's like new that's hopping on here, where you're based, night owl or early bird, please. Just keep
What?
it coming in the chat.
One for conversation, two, so we can figure out the most not essential, but the most fitting time to do these lives, because these fit me and Shayna right now, because we're working with 5-hour time difference between us.
Yes.
But we'd also love to know where most people are joining from, so we can, of course, cater to that if it works and get more interaction, be able to answer more questions live and all of that stuff. So yeah, drop that in.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna guess, I know Shayna's in Bangkok and
Yeah.
she's more of a night owl. We
Yes.
found.
Yes, generally speaking. But my night owl, because I am 11 hours ahead of EST. So truly the opposite, basically the opposite of whatever time it is EST. But I tend to be up late. So I don't mind being up a little bit later, generally speaking, if it helps people. But then like the inverse is also true. So like my mornings is other
Right.
people's nighttime. So I can like, for you guys, I will do it. I will wake up early. because like my 9 a.m. is your 10 a.m.
That's
Like, but
insane.
then we have to figure out when this works
10
also. We
p.m.
will figure it out.
But
What?
yes, 10 p.m. would be your 9 a.m., right? I have to wake up early to see these lives. Cats woke me up. Yeah, see, I was gonna say I'm based in CEST, so like Copenhagen time or whatever. I'm a morning. I've always been an early riser, but I also have a child, so I'm definitely an early riser. And I was just telling Shayna, like, I feel I am that person that's like when I get up and like go on a walk before most people have gotten up, I'm like, am I better than everybody else? But not like it makes me feel like this level. And then I also just love to nap in the afternoon if I can. It's just the peak of luxury for me. So I was even me and Shada were talking before this, and I was like, I'll wake up and do a live at 5 a.m. I'll do it for the story and I'll do it for the community. Like I can't promise I'm going to be completely there, but I will be there as much as I can, and I would totally
That is
get up and do a
awesome.
live at 5
That is
a.m.
fresh
It's
thoughts. That is
fresh. That's
so
actually,
good.
the closest time. I might even be better. Let's be honest. I might even be more fresh. So yeah, I'm willing to do a morning if we need to.
Yes, we will. We will be doing the best to keep y'all updated on when we're going to test this out, to see if this is easier for everybody that would like to get this information. And okay, that was what I was going to talk about. So if I remember correctly, the conversation today, it was supposed to be like getting your mindset right, but we did talk about that pretty extensively last time. Now,
Yes.
is it going to be about like fears, like apprehensions, like first fears, or what
Yeah,
are your
well,
thoughts?
I think it could be a mix of it. Okay, past one. Okay. Damn. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think if you haven't already read our first kind of official article out on Black Babes Abroad on Substack, definitely get there and do that. But that's where Shayna and I shared a little bit more of our personal lives. And I really like the format too that Shayna laid out for us to write, where it was like the, there's many reasons, and I think that's a beautiful and sometimes hard way is like everybody might be coming from this for a different reason. I'm sure many people are going to have different reasons why they want to move abroad, and their whys of course will change and shift, and it could be like a little why or a huge why. But it is really important that, especially if you're going into something as substantial as moving your life abroad, and not just traveling abroad and having fun, we love that too, but when you're looking at moving your life abroad, you definitely want to start with the mindset and getting your why clear. So when we're thinking about that, we'd love to still hear people's whys if you have any, and we'd love to workshop it. And I, in my coaching mindset, I'm like, okay, well, what's the hardest part about getting your mindset locked? And it's the fears. I feel like that come up, or the doubts, shall we say. I don't want to always just fear monger, but like what doubts are coming up. And I think we've already had some conversation around that. But if you love and care to share of like what are some of the doubts, and maybe just what are some of the unknowns that keep you a little bit like, "Ugh, I'm not sure if this is actually feasible," or yeah, maybe feeling overwhelmed by even starting the process of moving abroad. So I think that would be a really great place to go as well.
I like this. Please let us know any apprehensions, fears, things that make you nervous in the chat. We are more than happy to discuss them, share our experiences, our thoughts, things along those lines. And to get the conversation started, we'll be sharing some of our initial fears and things that made us go, when we first started. Um,
Things that
I
make you
thought,
go. Call
I
back.
think,
Who gets it?
like, what was some of my first the first things that made me sweaty when I thought about moving abroad was honestly, it was, I know for a lot of people, I think safety comes up.
For sure.
For me, it wasn't safety.
Hmm,
It wasn't safety. I think that because when my first time like extensively being abroad was when I was in Moscow, and that was when I
well,
experienced the worst of the worst. Yeah. And I was
you
like,
start with the worst and then you just trickle
I
down from there.
started in
That's a
hell.
strategy. It's a
Yeah. I
strategy.
mean, I didn't know that I was starting in hell. But also, okay, so this, I think I mentioned this in the video that I have about like my Moscow experience, but I also can't remember. So before I went to Moscow and spent like 4 or 5 months over there. There was a week that I was in Poland, and we were doing an intensive with a like notable acting school in Poland. And it was during that week, like I had a great time in Poland. It was Krakow specifically. And
Hmm.
the program was amazing. The students were super cool and wanted to hang out. The food was good. The weather was nice. I went shopping. I was like, oh my God. I was
Yeah,
fully
Poland's
prepared
nice.
to like have my lit. I was like, oh my gosh, if this is the beginning, there was a like there was even a guy over there that like wanted to take me out on a date, but I didn't know what was going on. And then I was like, I'm also not trying to get kidnapped. I've seen Taken. So then I was like, oh yeah, like we could go out, just like bring your friend and then I'll bring
Mhm.
my friend. And then I tried to do a whole double date situation, but he was not about that. It does not matter. But so like I had that experience, which I was like, oh, this is an enjoyable time abroad. And
Mm.
then I went straight to Moscow. And then I was like, yikes. And then I went to St. Petersburg and I was like, pretty, yikes. So having survived a
Mm.
lot of people's worst case scenarios, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, I've survived a worst case scenario. I know what
Yeah.
to do now in a worst case scenario. My, what was I don't know if honestly, when it came to like fears, I think that time put me in the fire for a lot of the fears that I initially had and like kind of
I
squashed them off me.
Okay, so I want to talk about this as far as mindset. Trying to make you a Black Russian. Um, as far as mindset, and I've talked about this a lot, and in my own thing with my clients, but like again, I don't want to fear monger, but the thing is like many of our fears might come true. And I want to say that that can actually be relieving. And it reminds me of your story where you're like, oh, like I didn't even know, maybe I didn't even have these fears, but like I experienced things that did not feel good. And then I made a way through them. I didn't know that I was going to have to do that. I didn't know I was going to be confronted with this racism or these looks or whatever. But when I was there and I made it through, then you were kind of like, well, I kind of made it through the worst. So what else can happen? Like I'm going to be smarter from this. I'm going to continue. And I think that's a I know for myself with moving abroad, I also made it like the easiest as possible. The first time I went somewhere, I went to Australia, which coming from Southern California, basically a different beach with an accent, which I kind of loved. I mean, it was a different culture for sure, but it was enough where I was like, okay, I relate, I feel safe, I can go. But also in Australia, I learned not to give money to a place that you have not seen live, that you have not been able to check out. At least not to give that much money because I landed after a 14, no, like something crazy, 18-hour travel day, two huge bags. Again, don't pack that heavy. Two huge bags going up this hill in Australia to find that the place was basically a lie. It was filthy. There was spider webs everywhere. It was and we had no place. Like I landed in Australia ready to study abroad for 6 months with no place. And when I think about that now, I'm like, that's scary and that sucks. But like, because I had that experience early on, what did I learn? I learned to not pack that heavy. I learned to make sure about my housing in different areas. I learned to have contacts in that country at least that I could lean on, which is what happened is that we called another friend that we had that we made beforehand and they helped us get our new apartment. Was it uncomfortable for those 3 or 4 days? Yes. Did I end up getting an incredible place with like 6 other Australian women, one other American, and have the time of my life? Yes. So a lot of it is like, it might be fear. Like you might have to find a place or you might have to go out on a limb and not have something decided before you get to that country. But this is where it comes to like the trust in yourself that you can handle it. And I say, if you're an American and if you're a person of color, you've handled hard things before. So you've handled hard things before. So it's the difference of like, I don't know what those hard things are. So it's a little fearful, but baby, if you trust yourself to handle it and know all of the shit you've handled before and what you're probably currently handling, you're going to be okay. But it's definitely like what is going to happen, what could happen. If you trust yourself to handle it, you're going to be Gucci.
We're gonna start diving into some of these comments. I do just
Yes, they're
want to
so
hop
good.
off of what you just mentioned before, like even in like more extreme situations, surviving in
Mm,
the United States. You like when the whole phrase, if you can do it in New York, you could do it. If you could live in New York, you could live anywhere, like that is also very true for the United States. If you can live in the US, you can pretty much live anywhere. Like, I didn't realize. So, Candace, I don't know. And once again, like, I'm not going to go into the whole deep story of it. So, no need for trigger warnings, guys. But for
Okay.
the things that, I don't know if we've had a discussion about like what, like the mayhem that I went through in Russia. But even when it comes to like more extreme situations
Mm.
where like you are in physical danger,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who are from countries where like if push comes to pull and somebody is grabbing you and somebody's trying to haul you off into a corner and somebody's coming at you fists swinging, a lot of people jump. Like, not to say that this is going to happen everywhere, let us not forget I was in Russia. Mistake number one. But also that all American, it's not a fight or flight. A lot of people is just fight. Like that I'm gonna survive no matter what. That I survived school shooter drills. That going down the street, you don't know who's packing and who's not. That like that just existing in that on a day to day prepares you for
For
any
a lot.
worst case scenario.
And
Maybe
here's
not
the
any
real,
because there's some
not
wild
any.
stuff on there, but like 99.9998 worst case scenarios.
And I just have to piggyback because, and I say this to lighten the load of like growing up America and still very, like, very privileged from Southern California, did not have a hard knock life. I'm not going to pretend, but like I've been through things. I've also seen other friends and people go through that shit. So like I have awareness of it. I know how to get through that. I feel like what was harder for me actually settling into my new life in Denmark was not immediately taking people's stares as that they were going to like as a threat. It was walking down the street at 2 a.m. by myself and allowing myself to feel safe after 5 years of being able to do that and nothing happening. It's unraveling all of that learned fight or flight where I was
Yeah.
like when I explain it to my Danish friends, they're like, "Why are you scared? Why are you?" And I'm like, "I don't like. It's just ingrained in me to be like street smart and be looking." And so again, depending on where you are, you might still have to be street smart. I'm not saying like everything is going to be all of a sudden better and safer, but where I am, where I found myself after years of being here, it's taken years to unravel that fight or flight being like, what do they mean by that? And like luckily, all of the situations I've been in here have been minor discussions compared to the real threats of existing and living in the States. So just putting that out there. But let's get to some of these comments because this
Yeah.
is so good. Okay, we're going back. New
Okay. So
mindset, definitely needed to move abroad.
mhm.
Housing,
Housing.
safety, neighbors.
And being sure the money is being saved up for moving is enough to move. Ah, this is a great place for us to start. Okay.
Hmm.
Let's start with housing. Um, in my experience, finding housing abroad, finding housing as two women that have grown up in the United States, finding housing outside of the United States is so much easier, so much less stressful, so much less expensive. You don't have to prove that you are a type O negative. You don't have to prove that when you were 4 years old, you were making 50K minimum a year. You don't have to prove do you have the money right now to pay for these bills and to deposit? Yes, here's your keys.
I mean, this is coming from Shayna, who found her apartment in a day.
24 hours. Like, and that is not necessarily rare to Thailand. Like, when I was in Mexico, I took a week. Now, mind you, each country has like different means and like cultures around finding housing.
Yes.
In my experience, so between Mexico, Thailand, and Spain, there's more commonalities between Mexico and Spain and Mexico and Thailand in finding housing in that you
Mm,
land there, you
you
go
find it.
online or you walk around a neighborhood, you see where the condos are, where the you see where the like in Mexico it's serenta, it's basically like for rent signs. There's a WhatsApp number. You message the WhatsApp number. It's like, hey, like, are you renting? They say, oh yeah, come by after like 5 o'clock. My family will be done eating and we'll show you the place. If you like it, great. Quick exchange, there's your keys. I found my apartment when I was living in Mexico within the first like 5 days of me living there. And it was just like hopping from apartment to apartment, messaging people, sometimes Facebook, most of the time just wandering the city, being like, oh, that apartment looks nice on the outside. Message, hey, are you free in like 2 hours? Oh my God, yeah. Mind you, all of this conversation is happening in Spanish, but like, it's just, all this is fake.
Google Translate. Google Translate will take you a long way. That live interaction conversation, that's how I made it through Estonia. I'll tell you that much.
Oh.
Yeah, but I will be honest, like Denmark is, I would say, closer to America, where it's like, yes, you still need, I think it's like 3 months of the rent is the deposit. So that's what you usually give them before. And so I will be honest to say, like, when you're coming into the market, it's hard because you're putting that up front. However, once you're in it and you're moving to another place, then you're usually, again, you have 3 months saved up. You're getting that back that you can then move to the next apartment, if that makes sense. Like, that's your deposit that you can get back, of course, with cleaning and all that stuff. So in Denmark, like, yes, you still have to forethought and you can definitely get a place before coming. And again, that this is where we talk about picking your place, picking your network, where it's like, do you have someone that can look it up? Can you look at certain reputable sites, right? That there's insurance basically. A lot of with Denmark is like it's hard to get, I don't say it's hard to get scammed, but like it's harder to get scammed and have nothing happen. Like the government, like you can put a police report, you could do something and people will help you. It's crazy. People like want to be helpful here, like help people. So so yeah, there's like it can be now even with 3 months rent, the rent itself is much more affordable, right? So comparison, oh, let me do some quick math. We have a 3 bedroom, 1 bath apartment, patio, very close to basically
Gorgeous kitchen.
everything, cute kitchen. And we're paying the equivalent of $2,100 USD.
Hmm.
I'll put that out there. And I honestly don't know. I mean, I come from California, so baby, that's still cheap. But again, so like you're still putting money into the housing, but there and I will say we are on the higher end of a rent in this city. Like we're on the higher end for sure. You can definitely get cheaper housing here. So just to throw out some numbers in case some people like to actually calculate it a little bit, which is one of our steps. But I think it's good to be transparent about these things. I
Yes.
just
Oh, and
have to
also,
also comment to Cleo about the freaking spiders in Australia. Cleo, my first day, get at the bus stop waiting for like in Australia. I was like, "Ooh, I can't wait to go to the University of Newcastle." And I just like saw something kind of like behind me, like rustling in the tree. And I was like, "Oh, it's a leaf." I shit you not, a tarantula spider the size of my hand to my face. And I said,
I would have been back on the plane.
I've crocodile Dundee too close to the sun. I was the amount of spiders I saw, I was so desensitized at the end of that. And the Australians, there'd be like huge spiders that would just be in our apartment. They're like, oh, little bit, and just pick it up and go, pick it up and put it at. So anyway, bears are shot like bears, but bears aren't coming up into my apartment. That's the thing.
No,
Like I know where
bears
bears
aren't
are and they know where I
poisonous.
am. I'm respecting the bears. The spiders, they're everywhere right now. It's spider season. That's its own thing. But no, the
And
Australian
it's
spiders go
spider
off.
season.
They go off, the Australian spiders. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
just to wrap up the transparency conversation about like
Yes.
what rent looks like abroad. So my rent for my Mexico apartment, which was like a very large studio, um like close, like not incredibly central, but just like on the outside of like the main part of town. I was close to supermarkets. I was like an what was it, like a 10-minute walk to the beach. That was in translated to USD, give or take 600 a month. um when it comes to utilities, I think I paid I don't think I paid water. Electricity, I paid once every 3 months, and that was about 150 pesos for every 3 months. Now
Sorry.
that the
We're just
most
in a
ex
spider discussion in the chat, and I'm like,
oh, the spider discussion is continuing?
yes. Australia and
Um,
Hawaii are now on the spider list, the spider's best kept secrets list.
oh, I didn't know. Wait, just for the sake of, like, wrapping this up,
Sorry,
though.
go, go, go. Sorry.
So out of all the 3 places that I've lived in, most expensive was definitely Spain, still less expensive than big cities in the United States. But I had a studio, yeah, I would say studio, like an L-shaped studio, very cute, very
Mm.
centrally located. I had a private outdoor patio, and then there was an upstairs rooftop deck that overlooked the, the National Art Museum of Catalonia. Stunning. That
Oh,
was about 1,200 euros per month, not including utilities and stuff like that. Um, and it was also right next, it was like a 2-minute walk to the, which, like, in USD is about, like, what, 1,400, 1,350, something like that per month, something
yeah.
like um, and it was also right next to a main line to get to and from the airport. Like, and to get to and from the airport, because my
Ooh,
job involves a lot of travel, that was like €7 each way. And then finally, my apartment here, I am paying about $700 a month for, like, depending on what the US dollar is doing. Right now, it's about $706 per month for my apartment. It is a 1 bedroom in what everybody says is like the spot to be in Bangkok. Um, a beautiful pool upstairs, gym. There's full service downstairs. There's also a separate room for, like, recording and stuff. Um, yeah, it's the how when it comes to housing, it is significantly easier and largely more affordable outside of the
yeah.
United States. Now,
Uh,
that is also going to depend on what country you choose, or, like, what
yes.
major cities you choose, but largely it will be less expensive. Yes.
Well, and also I think a good thing to point to too is we talk about housing, it's just housing, but you have to think about the lifestyle that you're living and all of the other costs. So even if housing is comparable to where you're at, what are you paying for your car? And would you have a, like, for example, I don't have a car and I had a car from when I was 15 and a half. That's a huge expense that I can then put to housing or put to anything else. Health insurance is covered. That's another huge expense you can put to other things. So when you think about what other stuff, and Shayna even saying like your electricity, all of these other bits and utilities, but also other things in your lifestyle, a car is a big one, right? That you will be saving money on possibly by moving abroad is something else to consider. I do want to point to, Sun, you had a question. What's a good indication of neighborhood to choose? I think we could both take this.
Mm.
Um, and have we either had a problem renting being Black or a woman? I haven't.
I also have not.
Um, I have not, like, and now, not every country, I can't speak to every country, but the country I'm in has laws against that. So, I mean, but also I've been, it's also smart to know, like, I've, at least in Denmark, I've had a Dane on my lease with me. Does that help? Yes. Do I have him do that sometimes? Yes, because I know that will help and it's easier for me to kind of like get in. However, a lot of my friends here single have had no problem finding places by themselves. And a good indication for neighborhood, this is going to be a future piece that Shayna will talk about and write about for scouting trips, which is if you can afford to go to the place before you're thinking of and doing one of these trips, because honestly, the best way is to go there and to be in it. Now, if you can't, oh my gosh, what a great age for us. There's YouTube where you can like walk around cities and they do city tours. There's so many other resources. Like once you lock down to maybe a country, what's the best city? You can do, yeah, just like asking people who might live there, reaching out, seeing. But yeah, I would always say if you're just dropping into a country you don't know, starting to ask around, getting into the Facebook groups and stuff, and just asking people who are there, where are the internationals at? Where are the families at? where's the fun stuff at? If you kind of know, and depending on where you sit within that, you can maybe locate what neighborhoods and what vibes are it for you. But another thing too is getting a place that works for now. If you have to book a place before you get there, that works for now. Don't put a year lease, put like 3 months that you can renew, and just be somewhere and then get into it and find your like more long-standing place. So if you can't commit to longer, that's fine. Then just drop in. If you can, then make sure you've seen something and have done a little bit of research from people who are there as much as you can.
Additional things to say when it comes to the having issues renting as a woman, as a black person, as a black woman. I have not had that experience of that being a detriment to finding somewhere or for people wanting me to rent. um,
Mhm.
Honestly, depending on where I've been, like I'm going to speak specifically about my time in Latin America. Me being a black woman was actually more of an open door for creating community, for getting to know people. This is a much longer conversation that can potentially be had at another time. But there was, so I, a journalist, right? So the first article that I was nominated for an award for was about indigenous women who make mezcal in a rural part of Mexico. And me being in that part of Mexico, I don't speak, like at that time I spoke like a little bit of Spanish, and I did not speak the indigenous language of that region, which was Zapotec. Um, and there were other journalists that had come to that region to try and like, get some of the like similar stories but a lot of the people were more closed off to other people that were coming in. Now, some of those other people that were coming in, yes, some were women and yes, some were not. A lot of them, some were like white from the Americas, some were like white Mexican people, some were, but whatever. But for whatever reason, and the woman that I had like going with me and translating, who had brought other journalists in, she was also amazed at how open a lot of the locals and the producers and the indigenous community was in general to me, asking questions, being invited into homes, being invited back after my trip. And I had to pull her aside. I was like, do you think that me being a black woman makes people feel more open? Because I was also surprised at the level of vulnerability that was being shared with me. And she said, Shayna, honestly, I don't have the answer for it, but it has to be a part of this because I have not experienced having journalists be this welcomed into the community before either. So this has been my experience. This has been my experience. And I'm assuming that it's also like this in other parts, potentially of Latin America and other spaces too. I've also, when I was looking for an apartment in Spain, the fact that I was a single woman was a very big draw for people. Like, not just like, okay,
Mhm.
I can prove that I can pay the rent, but depending on the neighborhood, like I didn't want to be in the middle of a party. I wanted to be somewhere like nice and cute and resident, like not super residential, but like walkable. I didn't want to see drunk people outside my stoop. I didn't want to see
Mhm.
vomit on the corner, right?
Oh, been
So
there.
the fact that the person that was managing the property, he told me that day, he's like, Shayna, if you want the spot, it's yours. You just need to let me know. And Barcelona is a hot market. It's hot like New York. If you wait 5 minutes, the apartment's
Yeah.
gone.
You gotta
So
turn to it.
yeah, and he was just like, Shayna, like, I like your vibe. The fact that you're not coming in with all of these dependents or partners. This building is a quieter building, and like, we don't have to worry about people coming in
Oh,
and out. It's just you. It makes my job easier. I was like, oh, okay, great. I like the spot. It's
yeah.
fine.
That's actually a really good point. And I mean, there's quite a few discussions I want to like put some bits to. But
Mhm.
just to echo to that, Shayna, I do feel in certain countries, at least my experience, that people are like, "You're a Black American woman, baby. I'm sorry. How can we help?" There is a little bit, especially now in Scandinavia, where they get our news, where they're like, "Are you okay? Oh, baby, come here."
Yeah.
I found that. Okay, Tracy. Hardest thing in terms of mentally taxing task is visa process, probably. I think aside from visa, it's the mental like getting ready to actually move abroad, taking the steps. But as far as like logistics, the visa process is the biggest thing to kind of figure out. That once you get that, a lot of other things can fall into place. The city tours are the best. Also, Stubbato is great username. Love that.
Oh,
Um,
about the has everything calmed down in Thailand bit.
hmm,
I'm assuming this is in reference to the earthquake. So Thailand's chill. Bangkok's super chill. Bangkok, Thailand in general was not part of the epicenter. It was obviously affected. Also, a lot of people might not know this, but the buildings that a lot of people were showing like that went down in Bangkok, it was still under construction. There was a lot, like nothing was secured because they were building up the building. So like the parts of it that came down, like none of it was like fully secured. Um, but yeah, like it's pretty much just life is normal. And the building that like a lot of the buildings that are around, like you can for some of them, you can see where some of the buildings do have what is it like damage from the earthquake on the inside. And for me, I'm just
hmm.
like, "Ooh, foundational issues, maybe I'm okay." But when I was looking around my apartment, I was like, considering
Yeah,
good
that's actually a
foundations, good bones, good bones.
good
So,
bone. When the bones are good, rest don't matter.
so
Oh yeah. Okay. So extended visas. Yes, there are countries that allow extended stays without a visa. For example, my sister's been traveling between EU and now UK because of Brexit, and you can stay in each place like 90 days out of the last 180 days, right? So there's ways that you can just do extended stays without having a visa. So again, that's how you can do a scouting trip. That's how if you can take a month out and be like, okay, let me test this out. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Let me test out how this place would be. You can absolutely travel. I feel most of EU, again, things could change any day, but most of EU, you can be there for about 90 days without having a visa. And I know other countries too have that as well. So that's a nice way again to test. And then
quick
JF,
important thing about EU
yeah.
travel. Quick important thing about EU travel as it relates to people from the United States. It's not
Mhm.
a lot of money. I want to say it's under $10, but there is something that you now need to pay for and like have on you before you enter into the EU. It's not one of those things where you can I don't think it's one of those things that you can get denied for, and I'm forgetting the name of it off the
It's
top
not
of
the
my
ESTA
head.
because that's to US, right?
Yeah, no, no,
It's
no.
coming to EU. Okay.
It's coming to the EU. If you just like,
They
I
have
will
one for
find it and I will
UK
send
too
it to you.
now as well. They have a little
Exactly.
UK like travel card that you have to apply for, but I got it in like 5 minutes. But yeah, you have to
Exactly.
like basically say when you're going. So that's good to
Yeah.
know.
And if you get one, you have to get one to enter into the EU, and it's valid for 2 years. So, and
Yes.
I think
Okay,
that's
same with
for
the
all of
UK.
it.
So it must have been of this region. Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Um,
Just people to.
JF, difficult living as an expatriate in Scandinavian country or EU. I thought you needed money to get. So again, for visas, I haven't found it to be competitive. Like I've lived here now for 8 years, and to continue on now that I've like put some time in, there's like 3 or 4 different visas I could apply for. Now, do they have different steps? Do some require higher levels of Danish? Do some require certain jobs? All of that. Yes, but I haven't found the visas to be competitive. If anything, people will say like I know specifically in Copenhagen, like the job market might be more competitive. But again, there's study visas, there's like volunteer visas, there's yeah, like extended workplace visas. So there's quite a few, and I only know Denmark. I'm sure there's different ones in Norway and Sweden. But I haven't found that the visas are too competitive. Just more deciding which one works for you.
And I
What's
would like to say this is not
next?
about
Yeah.
Scandinavia, but just in my experience, when it comes to visas, I don't know if competitive would be the right word because it's not as though
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of visas that people
Right.
can get, like countries can give out. Some might be a little bit more selective about specific kinds of visas, but it's not like
Mm.
there's a limited amount of them. So please don't go into it thinking, oh, they probably only have like 100
No,
or
yeah.
1,000. Yeah,
It's not like a college app. Like you can have those. Yes, there's volunteer visas. There's because to think of it, I know that doing like what's it called? Humanity. What's it called? Something for humanity. Um, there's travel trips. So basically that's another one, is like not to even go straight through the country, but to be like, oh, I want to do a tour around. Like that's something I did when I was younger, but still there's like travel tours where you get to travel to like 15 different countries and stay around. So you can even do that to travel around and see different ways. But yeah, there's volunteer groups or missions. If you, I don't know, if there's a camp to help plant trees up in Sweden, like you can get a special visa to work in that way, right? So again, like a humanitarian visa, but they're usually attached to certain projects. But again, there's different ways you can go about the visa. So it really is like kind of getting creative and figuring out what your situation is.
It's also
Being
important to know
self-employed
that we will be doing the deepest dive into
on
visas
visas,
on
yes, yes,
Substack. So make sure that you're joined into the Substack community. The information for like how to join all that, it's all in the description. And we are making our way through the checklist. If you do not have our free How to Move Abroad checklist, please download
get
it.
that.
We made it free for a reason. Like we want everybody to have all of the information possible, and we are going through the list and expanding on and giving more details on each
Yeah,
step of this as we post things on Substack. So
yeah.
just
But
make
visa might be 2 weeks, honestly, of chats or of going lives, honestly.
yeah.
But yeah, plan to become a citizen. Yes, I do. Honestly, I'm gonna see what the year looks like. Because depending, this is something else to think of, depending on what America does and depending on what Denmark does, I might have to relinquish my American passport to fully be a citizen. Not right now, but that could change. And so I just want to, I want to keep it for now. But yeah, that's something again to think about. Self-employed abroad is available. That was a visa I got. Yeah, so it's a startup in Denmark. They have a startup fund, but again, you can basically be self-employed, and if you're making a certain amount of money and you can sustain yourself, then you can go off and get a visa off of that. It's essentially its own type of working visa. Again, that's just for Denmark, but I'm sure it's similar in other areas. Shayna?
Quick thing. So, when it comes to being self-employed abroad, I am self-employed abroad, and I have been self-employed abroad. I am happy to share more about that experience. I did not have an LLC until relatively recently. I was just a freelancer abroad, and then like content creation started to generate income, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I don't necessarily need to incorporate anything. Um, the only thing that makes it's not even tricky, it's just once you know how to do your taxes as a freelancer, as a self-employed person, that just kind of carries through. But honestly, that's the only complicated thing. But it was complicated in the US because taxes are unnecessarily complicated in the United States. Um, it depending on the kind of work that you do, scheduling might be a little funky. Just because like if you like I have meetings sometimes with people in the US and I'm like, I can't be up at 4 o'clock in the morning is there another way that we can have this meeting? Is there anybody that you have that's remote that would be open to having this meeting with me? And please help me. But outside of that, because of the kind of self-employed work that I do, I can't say that there's too much of a difference to my life. Now, depending on the kind of visas that you're going to get or that you would be interested in, there are like generally self-employed, quote unquote, self-employed visas also kind of fall under like digital nomad visas for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
countries. Um, but there are also other visa opportunities for people who are self-employed but don't necessarily want that to be how they get their visa.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Prime example here in Thailand, there is the not digital nomad, the destination Thailand visa, which is what I have. But there's a number of ways to get that visa. I'll be doing a deep dive on that on the Substack also. And for example, one of the ways that people are able to come and get extensive 5-year visas with the possibility to renew is for medical purposes. So if you need long-standing medical care, that could be anything from IVF to chronic pain management to you've had physical therapy. You need long-standing physical therapy. There are other ways to get long-term visas that are not necessarily tied to your self-employment. Yes.
Beautifully said. Okay, I'm sorry. Shout out to Margaret Scratcher. That cat name. Yes, you can move with your pets. We actually have an interview. Did two people move with their pets? Just one at least.
No,
No,
we
two.
had
One.
one. We had one person.
Stacy moved with a pet. And we know quite a few people, so we will do a section on moving with pets. But yes, it's possible. Yes, they might have and need their own visas. It's really cute, or their own little passports and visas.
They will most likely need their own visas.
Most
We will
likely.
also need to, once again, we will be doing a deep dive onto this, but there is depending on the country that you move to, there will be certain stipulations for the kind of pets, the breed of pets, the
Yes.
size of pets, what vaccinations your pets do or don't have, the medical history of your pet. Like there's when we say they're going to need a visa, they're going to need a full, like sometimes they need specific
Report
medical workups.
profile. Yeah.
So it's possible, and they have their own process too.
So something again, it's kind of knowing all of your stipulations early on to be like, okay, I need this medical care. I'm moving with kids. I'm moving with pets, and then using all of that to figure out a place, right? And that will also help with the visa process and all of those things. There is a link to the checklist in the description, I believe, of this live, also in Shayna's description as well. But you can see a link to Substack and the checklist.
Yes, the link to the Substack is in the link to the Substack is in the description. I think I put the link to the free checklist also there. If not, as soon as this live is done, I will implement it right away.
Yeah, and you can find it on the Substack. And JF, actually, one came to mind, reputable organization in US or Denmark that help people figure out process of working abroad. So I actually have a friend, her name's Katie. If you look on LinkedIn, it's called Career Denmark is her business. Basically, she now helps people who are in Denmark secure jobs. So JF, maybe be more specific if you're looking to like find a job abroad somewhere versus the process of like actually working abroad, because there's going to be people that help with that depending on what stage you're in, if that makes sense. If you're looking to find a job that you can sponsor, that's going to sponsor you so you can get a visa based off of it, you're probably going to have to go through more of the, at least in Denmark, go through the like consulate, yeah, the visa national website basically of Denmark, and looking at, usually there's job boards that say that they'll be open to sponsorship. A lot of that time you find a Danish company and then you have to go through and say, hey, I also need to be sponsored. I need to make this amount of money so I can have the visa. So it depends on which way you're going through the process. But Career Denmark is one just to follow. She's really great. And she helps a lot of, especially internationals, find work and know how to work the system, get part of unions, all of that stuff. Yes, an artist, dancer. Yes, you do hair. You better work. Trying to study language and live a soft life. Again and again, this is if you have the money, if you have it, studying abroad is going to be your easiest and I would still say most affordable option to live abroad. So finding a study abroad, and yes, even in Europe, you might have to pay. Well, you probably will have to pay, but again, like I said, my master's program was still a quarter of the price of a master's program I could find in the States. So I paid, but still it was a breeze for me. And again, thinking of, okay, I'm now getting free healthcare. Again, it's going through taxes, but I'm getting healthcare. I was able to move. I was able to get a visa, a cheaper visa. So that's also a thing. Or again, we talked about it in our last live, doing smaller programs or educational programs. I know a friend just went to like this incredible program, like 2-week program in Oxford, where she was studying what was it, like neuromarketing techniques or
Oh,
something. Super cool. But Oxford, by the way, they like filmed a lot of Harry Potter there, so it was like gore. Gore just got to go in the Great Hall and do that whole experience. So again, there's different ways to even just get a tease of abroad if
on
you
our
can.
last live, there was somebody that was
Oh
getting
my
ready to
gosh, the
study.
fiddle
Yeah, learning how to make fiddles
make
and violins abroad. Also,
so
like
sick,
you, if you can dream it,
so
there's
sick.
probably a program for it somewhere. So don't think that it necessarily has to be like, oh, I have to be trapped at a desk learning about a thing I don't care about. Somebody's
No,
out
there's
there
so
making
many fun
fiddles.
programs. They're doing a program on Beyonce's Lemonade at the Copenhagen Business School next.
So it sounds like somebody has already registered. Somebody's pre-registered. It's okay.
I won't tell on myself like that. Um, I JF, I haven't come across an age limit, maybe because I'm a little baby. But no, in general, I don't think I haven't seen an age limit for visas or for work. Like again, it would be it would be a specific workplace. But I haven't seen any like age limits for certain ones, unless you're going for like us. Sometimes they'll have students or they'll have specific students or like young adults. Sometimes, it's like 18 to 25, but then other visas, I haven't come across any
The
age
age
limits there.
limit thing I have not seen when it comes to visas. Age limits, like age does become a
Margaret.
factor when you start thinking about insurance though. Like I think once you reach
Mm,
like 65, they hike up the price of international insurance regardless of where you are,
right.
generally
Mhm.
speaking. I will also say, and this is a thing that is in Spain that nobody told me about, but basically people say, oh, once you turn 30, you're basically on death's doorstep. So before the age of 30, if you go and like live in Spain and whatever, you don't have to have medical insurance to get a visa after you turn
Mm,
30 because they're basically like, hey, Crypt Keeper, we see you getting ready to die on us. You need to go get life
Crypt keeper.
insurance. And
Well,
I'm
it's a
like,
good practice, I
I'm not
guess.
dying
They're
anytime
like, do
soon.
your will, say goodbye, make your
Say goodbye.
heirlooms,
Yes.
clear
Pre-buy a
the
casket,
space.
and here's your visa.
Yeah, and
So
here's your visa.
there
Oh
are
my
a
gosh.
couple of little things like that come
My
up every now and then, but not like an age limit. It's not like they were going to stop me from coming.
yeah. Oh, come on, Michigan. Yes, if you study abroad, typically you pay for housing and everything else. And again, it depends on the program because sometimes the program in like already encompasses your housing or a meal plan or something like that. I know there's sometimes where you go to the university and they might already include like a bike rental play or something, right? So it's depending on what you're looking for. But yes, you usually pay out of pocket for those programs unless you can get a scholarship. There again, go back to like the creation of like, okay, there's scholarships. I think there's, you know what, that could be one. Maybe Shayna, we try to compile or ask of like scholarships for these types of study abroad programs that aren't like related to like young university. Because I feel like there's definitely stipends and stuff out there for like, oh, this travel program, this. So
Hmm.
explore, look around. But yeah, study abroad, depending on your program, depending how long if you're there for a semester versus like a 2 week program. Usually, like you'll pay for your housing, and everything, but it also could be like a package rate
That should be a
sometimes.
good roundup for us, like a good roundup article. We find
Yeah,
different ones for different regions, or just like, hey, here's money to go study where you
exactly. Yeah,
want and do that. Yeah. Um,
investigate and vet, and also get like I'm also the person to be like, look through LinkedIn, look through Facebook if you're on there still, and just be like, this is the time to use it, and be like, hey, you're looking at University of Newcastle. Go to University of Newcastle, look at the groups, and be like, hey, y'all, I'm an international student thinking about going. Ask your questions, right? Like start to get information from people that have it before you say no in your head, right? Where you're like, I don't know. Just because you don't know doesn't mean it's a no. So what don't you know? Let's investigate, let's vet it, let's figure it out. And then you have more information to work with that way.
Okay, I'm taking it back a little bit because I want us to discuss this question.
Cool.
So A Mar says teaching English is the only way for me to leave the States. East Asia is the best option, but the idea of being stared at scares me. How do you handle this?
Mm.
Did you just get over it or get used to it?
Are you asking me?
Oh no, like this is like a group. Your face was giving like I have thoughts. So I was going to give you the
I
floor,
mean,
but
I have so many thoughts. Well, one, I don't know, and maybe you know this, but I'm again gonna challenge, is teaching English the only way for you to leave the States? Is my one maybe coaching question. Is like, is that true? Is that the only way you can? Also, then, if Southeast Asia or if East Asia is the best option, I haven't been to Asia. I do know many other, Shayna can obviously talk to this. I know many other people of color,
I just got
especially
here.
English teachers. Yes, you just got here, but like many people that did long standing time, live there still, all of that in Asia. I will speak from my experience as being Black in Scandinavia, notoriously a pretty white place. Um, it took me, truthfully, about 2 or 3 years to feel comfortable with people staring at me. Now, I again can't say that my experience is the same as Asia because I know they like people say like they stare because they're like, oh my gosh. But again, we ask ourselves, why are they staring? And what are we making of them staring? So from my experience, when people stared at me, I was subscribing the same reaction I would have in Texas when open carry was out, and people would stare at me and lock eyes, and I felt like my life was in danger. Now, when an older Danish couple stares at me on the street, I was like, oh, I'm in danger, right? And it took me 2 years, especially with me and my partner. He's white Danish, right? So you see the difference. And I would always be like, oh my God, they're staring at me. They're staring at me. And he was like, maybe they just think you're like, maybe they like your dress. Maybe they think you're pretty. And he was like, let's be honest. Yeah. Like they don't see many Black people here. So they're looking. Right. So there is a bit of it is like, what do we take from it? And this is what I talked about in the beginning of the live is like, it takes a while to unravel our learned reactions of fight or flight when some people stare, and again, it's like head on a swivel, it's the street parts. When someone stares, sometimes that can mean a threat, sometimes it can mean they're just curious, and sometimes it mean they like what they're looking at. So it's kind of a little bit of it, and a lot of it of it is how you're going to take that. But I'm not at all diminishing it because it's something that I struggled with, was like being stared at and being seen as different. And I got over it because I was like, I'm never going to look Danish, which is also rude because there's many Black Danes here, right? But I'm not going to look and like blend in with what people think of Scandinavia and Denmark. I'm never going to. So why should I make myself miserable by doing that? And why should I feel such fear and like danger when people are just looking at me for being someone they don't see all the time, which is kind of a serve, like kind
But
of
also
fun.
for
So
but also for the people that like, and I don't know if Mare, like, how it sounds like this is a pretty big fear of yours, like something that would cause a lot of discomfort initially, and maybe you get used to it, maybe you don't. Generally speaking, though, mind you, this is as somebody who is living in not East Asia but Southeast Asia, but also I'm living in a big city, and I am living in like, there's not a lot of Black people. There's not a lot of people that look like me that I pass on the street, but there are enough to where locals, like, you see enough to where people aren't gawking. So if it is like a big concern of yours, I would recommend maybe starting off by looking into big cities in East Asia, because we will always be in it. One thing about us, we're going to find a city. Internationally, the colored folk will find a city, and I understand that like Asia is also like a POC continent, but
yeah,
us melanated ones, us Black ones especially, we're gonna find a city, and then with how comfortable we are in that city, maybe we'll spread out, maybe we'll venture into the suburbs, maybe then we'll check out some other cities afterwards for places to plant ourselves. Vacationing, we will go where we go, but
yeah.
I
Oh, I love
recommend big cities generally, if that is a thing that you're like, because
for
it's going to
sure.
tend to be more international regardless.
I love Mora. Just look fabulous. Go out there. Let them get used to seeing Black excellence. That's what I was. It took me year three, but I was like, I guess I'll be an example of that. Like, I guess I'll just go out there and shine. So Tracy, I love this. I'm gonna challenge you a little bit here, and I do it with love. Because as someone who studied like intercultural relations, like staring is not rude in all countries, in all countries and all cultures. That's I was just saying, thank you, Gwen. Like, and so that is the honest reflection of like, and people actually, I think of the EU, like Germans get the worst rep about staring because they'll be like, and just think it's normal. Now Danes stare because I'm like, they're genuinely curious and they're like in the best way. Things aren't so like vibrantly exciting for them. So if like someone drops like a fork in a restaurant, people are like they're just nosy. They're just a little nosy. And so I learned because nothing harmful ever came so far has ever come from someone staring at me too long, except for them being like, I like your dress. Like if people came over, they're like, hey, are you American? Or hey, are you from here? Or hey, I noticed blah, blah, blah. It's never resulted in a threatening situation for me. So that's why I say like we have to realize that, and this is a whole I'll write a whole article about like having to like pull yourself away from your culture and realize so much of what we think about people in society is American culture. But when you step into someone else's culture, there could be a city where it's like staring is actually a beautiful compliment. If people want to look at you, that means like you should feel good about yourself. Okay, so how do we balance that out, and how do we kind of in that way assimilate to that and unravel what we know so that we can fit in to that society? But these are all, oh, this is like the juicy part. I can't wait to get into when we get into like the second part, because I don't know if Shayna's mentioned, well, we've mentioned it before, but for any of y'all who are new, the checklist that we have currently available is basically like getting you to the flight. We're calling it like the takeoff. And then we're also going to have another piece of this that's the landing. Because again, there's a lot of travel advice out there, there's a lot of moving abroad advice out there, but there's not a lot of living abroad, building a life that you want to continue staying in abroad. So a lot of that is where we talk about those cultural nuances. We talk about the intercultural, communication that's going to be necessary when you start to actually build a life abroad. How much do you want to assimilate? Language, all of that stuff, right? So yay, Tracy! Thank you so much for coming in. Have a beautiful shift. They're
Oh,
nosy too.
also
Yes,
for the
nosy. I support that. As someone who's also nosy, like I get it, but it's also like
yes,
yes,
yes. In the States, I
yes.
imagine being stared at is a much different experience as a Black immigrant. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because it's like, what you looking at? What are you? What?
Exactly. Are genuinely intrigued by the beauty of melanated skin and our features. This is my experience from 30 years. Yes, Link's on. But true, like the conversations I've had when I've actually like opened myself to have that, a lot of people do stare because they're like, I just don't see people like that. Or many people like very kind-hearted just want to know about our experience because they have a lot of our media, at least Scandinavian Danes have a lot of our media. So they're like, are you okay? That's what they're like. How's your experience being a Black woman? How do you feel? How do you feel in Texas? How do you feel in California? How do you feel in Denmark? Like I have very incredibly deep cultural conversations with Danes here because many of, I would say, overwhelmingly the majority are open and curious and they're naive and they're a little ignorant and but they get that, right? Um,
Um.
yeah, yeah.
So
If you're
couple,
not the usual,
couple,
they say, yeah,
couple of
I love
quick
that.
things. So, oh my goodness. Okay, quick thing. One, are we going to do a Buga section too? Probably not. Men are men everywhere. They just kind of behave differently in different spaces. So no, I don't expect that there's going to be a specific section for the problematic ones and how they're
Mhm.
differently problematic. Just some men, you know? Sometimes you're pleasantly surprised internationally and sometimes you're not. There's that. Um Also, we are a little bit over. A little bit over. I
Yeah,
feel like we're
yeah.
trying to keep this
It's
like
so
closer
fun.
to an hour. Um
Yes.
so let's say that we're going to be on for around 8 more minutes. So that way we could cap it for like so that way it's like an hour and 10 this time. Does that work?
Hmm. Yeah,
Cool
works for
beans.
me. I'm already like reading the
And
comments. Yeah, I love this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just a reminder for everybody on here, a big reason why we want why we're trying to figure out when is a good time for these lives to be happening for everybody is because the lives themselves, like this in this moment right now, is going to be like free, accessible for everybody. But in order to rewatch these, it's
Mhm.
going to be behind a paywall. So that way we can, generate some money so we could continue to do this work and not like accidentally like put ourselves in the hole.
And
So
also to kind of protect what's shared here, because I think it's different when things are live and y'all feel comfortable
yeah,
to share certain
girl.
things. But I think of that as like, people are sharing personal stuff here. So I'd rather that, people who are invested in also going through this journey of moving abroad are the ones seeing your stories as well. So that's also a
Mhm.
part of just like protection of the community that we keep those stories. And I think that will also help people to feel more safe of, yeah, having these discussions because I know how it can, yeah, there's some personal stuff sharing, and we might blab some personal stuff where we're like,
And we
maybe
might
that's
go
protected
off
to
the
the
subject.
peeps. Maybe that's protected to the for the peeps. But
And
yes,
yes,
they're gonna
these
be
are going to
weekly.
be weekly. These are going to be weekly. Um, I have a series of
But
these
we're coincide
already
mode.
pre-scheduled on my YouTube channel. So
Oh,
look at the
amazing.
times, reserve them. If the times have to change, it's been great, been early, and thanks for
This
talking
is
about
awesome. Thank you so much for your interaction,
it.
everybody who's I know people are popping off
Yes,
and going to work, which I
yes.
love. I love this early morning energy, y'all. Y'all
Yeah,
have all
thank
of my
you so much
respect.
for rocking with us so incredibly early. But yeah, once again, we might be changing some of the times so that way it's a little easier for more people to hop on. But there's already I think there's like 3 or 4 other lives that are already scheduled on my YouTube channel. Just
Yeah.
go reserve, make a little alarm for them because we will be continuing these conversations, and the themes of these conversations are already on the thumbnails. And share
Amazing.
these with a friend that is also
Yeah,
interested in moving abroad, has questions. Like we want this to be more. We want more people to have this info.
definitely. Definitely.
Any thoughts on Benin citizenship? That is so specific. That is
Well,
so
Shayna,
specific. I don't know anything
you
about
have the
Benin
floor.
citizenship right now. I do know. Well, actually, I do know a little bit about Benin citizenship. So I think, if I remember correctly, Benin is one of the countries in Africa right now that is open to giving citizenship to African Americans as like a welcome home citizen. If I
The
remember
welcome
correctly,
home visa. Benin, you
basically.
better work. I love that.
I don't
About
have
time.
a lot of thoughts about it right now because I haven't done a deep dive onto Benin's specific visa.
Hmm.
Um, I do know, if I remember correctly, I think that Benin is one of the many African nations right now that is trying to separate ties from France, which means that Benin and other countries along that coast of Africa, um, not just along the coast actually, because I think there's like a specific oil line that cuts through Africa that France has had its hands in for generations. Oh, it's Ghana, but
Got
there
it.
are other nations that are doing this also. I think
Ah.
Benin is one of them, but I'm not 100% sure that it is. Um, but yeah, all this to say, there's a lot of African nations that are rising up and taking their power back, taking their money back, and taking their resources back. And it is making the West incredibly nervous. And I am so excited to see how this plays out. I myself am going to be visiting Africa a couple more times in the nearish future, so I will be happy to.
Yes.
There's been reports a lot of us are going to Kenya. Stop it! That's literally where I'm going to be going next. I'm going to be in Kenya in a couple of weeks. I will not say when. I will not say when. Weeks, months. I'm really bad
Years.
at time.
Whom's to say? Whom's to say
Oh,
at this point? Yeah, no, I
but
definitely need to get to Africa. But I've heard, I don't know all the country specifics, but I have heard more of those visas basically popping up. So I love to hear like more about which countries, and we're gonna have to make like a resource list, like a standing resource list. This is what's
yeah.
gonna be perfect for the chat, for subscriber chat. Like when we get more information or just like sharing articles about this stuff, I love for us to be more reactive and like just post those out to the chat on Substack. So another reason why to like subscribe, because we might be like, hey, there's a new visa available. This could be good for people. Hey, blah blah blah, and we'll just like try to
Yes.
drop those things quicker. So you have to wait for like a whole week or whatever for us to chat about it.
Yes, and I totally forgot. I did an article for Essence a couple weeks or months ago. I can't remember, specifically about Black Americans that have immigrated to Africa to talk about the process of moving and the realities of moving to different African nations. Because the process is different, different countries have different visa applications, and Kenya came up in a big way. Kenya just has a couple of new visas options that are open that open up the gate for a lot of Black Americans to move abroad. And the person that I interviewed about who moved to Kenya and has all of these resources, go to, oh my gosh, I need to remember to post all of these things in the description. I will do my best to remember to post this in the description and the checklist in the description because if you type in Shayna Conde Essence, all of my articles are going to come up. You go to you look for the
Yes,
one
ma'am.
about Black people in Africa, click on it, and then just read through. There's like between 3 to 5 nations that are mentioned in there. If you're curious about Kenya, if you're curious about South Africa, if you're curious about, oh no, What are the other countries? There's others
You
in
have
there.
to see. Surprise. You have to read.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise,
Yes.
surprise. Son, honestly, that's kind of our vision with a lot of other big things that we love. But like, yes, this is like the international green. This is the brown book, the international brown book.
Where's my handy dandy
Um,
notebook?
yeah, where's
Stop.
your stickets? Your stickets. How old am I?
I don't
Um,
remember what my handy dandy
your
is.
handy dandy notebook. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I freaking
I
love that.
mention it all the time in my
And you
YouTube
don't even have
videos.
it. See, this is Son's a real one.
This
Son was
is
like, take your notes, girl.
yeah.
Nigeria,
Next
Ghana.
time. Next time
Yes.
I'll do better with it. Okay,
Oh my God, I love this. Okay,
guys, this has
this is
been
about.
lovely. This has
I
been
love these.
lovely.
These are so fun.
I know, right? Okay.
Thank you all so much for participating in such good questions and conversations. And again, it doesn't have to stop. Let's keep it going on Substack. Comment, DM us. Again, we'll be getting some chats popped on or popped off in the Substack. So we'll be sharing resources as we find, asking questions, deciding what maybe the topics are going to be for these live, asking good times to have these live. So lots of conversation, lots of community building there. So follow us on Substack. Shayna will be adding or making sure checklist is on the description here, as well as her article from Essence. Those are the two.
Yes.
She's off to it right now.
Doing it
Thank
right
you
now.
all so much. This is amazing. We're it just feels good. It just feels good. I want to demystify the whole thing about moving abroad because I think both Shayna and I can say it's one of, if not the best decisions we made,
The
and
best.
it's not always the easiest every step of the way, but knowing that you at least have two people in your corner that are here to help as much as they can, I hope soothes it and makes it more exciting. So thank you for today, and until next time,
All right. See
continue
you guys.
slaying.
Bye.
Bye.